Hi everyone, my name's Linda Marson from Global Spiritual Studies, and I'm absolutely delighted to have with me today Stella Woods, who's been a professional astrologer for almost 30 years, and that's a long time to be looking at all those astrological charts. And earlier this year in April, Stella wrote a very interesting blog, well, it was more than just a blog, it was quite a detailed article about coronavirus and the various astrological conjunctions and what planets were doing and so on. And I'm going to skip to the end of it, or close to the end of the article, when she has this subheading, "When will this all end?" And she says, "I'd say at least until December 2020, when Jupiter finally leaves Capricorn and moves into Aquarius alongside Saturn, the signal for pressing the restart button on how society functions." Well, when I read that back in April, I went, "Oh, Stella, can't you come up with something a bit closer or better than that?" better than that? But here we are sitting at the end of October, and I have to say that just about everything that you wrote in that article seems to be eventuating. So this is why I'm having an update with you to see how you see everything now. And of course, we've got Mars. I know that an important aspect at the moment is that Mars is retrograde, and that was the last thing that you actually brought into that article. So. How have you seen the year play out in terms of your predictions?
In terms of my predictions, yes, well, when I wrote "When will it all end?" back in April, and I came up with December, that I wasn't very happy with that either. And I mean, I think there's still more to come, but maybe I'll put up a chart of where the planets are now. So even if you don't really know much about astrology, it will be at least you'll have something to reference. And no, I'm not just pulling this out of a hat. Jupiter and Saturn are the rule and structure of society and economic development. So they're kind of like what I call fashion planets if I'm teaching. So if Capricorn is in fashion, which it has been this year, people are more likely to be going on to that authoritarian side and championing, rules, structure, listening to people in charge, following the signs, all that sort of stuff. And so the shift that I was describing is that in December, these two planets, Saturn and Jupiter, are both going to be moving into the sign of Aquarius. So I guess, what's the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius? I've written in another article that Capricorn is the authority, and Aquarius is the sign of humanity. So at its best, it's things like innovative science and technology, maybe vaccines, new information, new ideas that benefit humanity. So that's what we would all be hoping for, that there's a kind of collective mindset shift, where we are moving out of this, being controlled by our governments and leaders, into the fashion for being innovative and working for the best of humanity. But the dark side of Aquarius is what I call the brave new world, or maybe even the follow the science, where the authorities come up with, this is what's best for you, a bit like Pol Pot or Stalin, we're doing this for your own good. You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. And so the potentially negative side of Jupiter and Saturn and Aquarius, which will be going right through next year, and then Jupiter moves into Pisces, which is a better sign for it to be in. It operates better in Pisces. But at least through 2021, those two will both be in Aquarius, and we could have thisisforyourowngood.com, and your own safety, get the vaccine, follow the rules, think of other people, not yourself. So I really don't know which way it's going to go, but yeah.
But I mean, this year has been very much the year of the Emperor. If we can bring in the tarot, that 2020 reduces to 4, and in the major arcana, that's the Emperor, or we can actually look at it as a double 20, double judgment. But let's take it as the Emperor, because it just has been that year of us looking at an amazing array of emperors and governments and control and all the things that you've been talking about with Capricorn. But so are you saying that moving into with the planets moving into Aquarius, that there still could be a lot of this is all for your own good, so
Yeah.
that it could still be more, so it could just be a softer authoritarian attitude?
Yeah, I think it won't be. It certainly won't be as draconian as it has been, because I think we know a lot more about the virus. Aquarius is an air sign, so it's about ideas and, you know, new developments, new technology, that sort of thing. But what has alarmed me this year is how readily people have submitted to authority, even though, you know, Capricorn, it's in fashion, and given up freedoms. And that we've had every time anyone's tried to protest or discuss different things, they've been stomped down. No, I don't feel as though critical debate has been encouraged this year. And Saturn, the Emperor Capricorn, one of the key words is fear. And, you know, when you sort of strip this back to its basics, the great fear is that anybody could kill us. You know, that's the sort of bottom line, isn't it? That you could, the virus is asymptomatic, it's easily transmittable. All you have to do is be out in the street next to someone, you could catch it and you could die. And I think that as we get more statistics and data coming through, and we look at the curves and we see how different countries are, you know, fighting the virus, we'll be able to get a bit more intellectual control and not be coming from this real, you know, gut level fear of being killed by our neighbours and friends and families. Yeah.
Well, I believe, as I always say to people, I'm not an astrologer, which is why I'm talking to you, Stella, because I always say I always leave the astrology to the astrologers. But at the moment, we've got Mars retrograde until about the middle of November. What sort of effect is that likely to have on us?
So here's Mars over here. In fact, it's right on the ascendant in Australia as I'm doing this interview with you, which is interesting. So that means it's prominent. So Mars is this little red symbol. Sorry, Aries is this little red symbol here. So here's Mars in Aries. We've also got Eris, a recently discovered body, what do you want to call it, in Aries. And we have had Lilith in Aries as well, and Chiron. And these 4 planets have all been in Aries. So if you look at the connection between the Capricorn planets up here and the Aries planets, they're linked by what's called a square, which is meaning that they're opponents, that don't get on. So the energy of Aries, just even before we get to Mars, is about I want my own way. I don't want to be restricted. I do what I like. It's the sign of the warrior. It's a sign of self-assertion. And so we've had these 4 planets in Aries clashing with the ones in Capricorn all year. Meaning, and that's played out in the fact that we've had these violent protests, which have been, well, there's been the Black Lives Matter, there's been, you know, the climate change stuff, and of course there's been the reaction to coronavirus with protests and the, you know, people being locked up and handcuffed, and draconian laws for, you know, grannies being arrested for sitting on picnic benches having a sandwich, and as well as people maybe who deserve to get arrested. But it's like we've kind of lost the plot. It's like some kind of childhood you know, story where the baddies and the goodies are fighting. So Mars, normally being an action planet, only spends 2 months in a zodiac sign, and that gives the flavour of assertion for that 2 months. But it's been in Aries for quite a while. I think it's spending 6 months in Aries this year and early into next year. So the retrograde transit of Mars is you sort of keep going on over old ground. So it's this thing about we're locking down, we're not locking down, we're fighting, we're not fighting, we're doing it this way, we're doing it that way. So it's pretty chaotic energy. And Mars is also about anger. So that's why we've had, huge amounts of public anger, but there's also been a lot of private anger, which is, the shadow side of anger is depression. And so this feeling of futility and hopelessness that you can't fight, you've been emasculated, you can't go down the normal channels and assert your human rights or whatever because everyone else is fighting as well. So I guess it's a real shitstorm, 2020, if you want to put it. And Mars is going to be out of Aries into Taurus. Have a look when that's happening. I think it's early next year. But the Mars retrograde bit stops in mid-November, and then it spends some more time in Aries before it goes into Taurus. And just one last thing to add on to this is that when just going back to Saturn and Jupiter, when they do go into Aquarius in December, January, they're then going to be lining up with Uranus in Taurus, which we haven't mentioned at all. Uranus is about breaking through the status quo. So we're going to be having fighting in early 2021 about how things should be restructured.
Okay.
That's the financial system, the economic system, social system. And I just heard a really great interview yesterday, I think it was, on one of the BBC programs with a scientist who's a professor. And he said what I've always thought is this mantra about following the science. He said the scientists have no idea what they're doing either. Because, and I thought it's great because he's a highly qualified professor. He said, we're doing our best, but we don't agree amongst ourselves.
No.
It's a new field. So this idea that there is one solution and there's one vaccine and everything will go back to normal is really cloud cuckoo land. It is a new phase for humanity, shall we say. And because we're right in the middle of it, we really don't know how that's all going to play out in the next year.
So just in conclusion, do you have any sort of thought about January, February, what I mean, you've been talking about it in
well, I wish I did have a crystal ball, but the good thing is Mars retrograde will be over by mid-November, so this real impasse that we have been in for the past couple of months, the Melbourne lockdown, people can't get back to Australia, they're having these tier lockdowns in the UK. I do think that will start to shift by the end of November, December. But as for next year, what would I say? I think we are at the cusp of a new way of doing things, particularly business and economy. And I guess I'd say to people, instead of just waiting for things to go back to the way they were before, to maybe look at what the new opportunities are for you, your family, your businesses, and so on. And you might go, oh, that's all very well, Stella, I've lost my house, I've lost this. But if we look back at similar periods in history where people have lost everything in wars and depressions and revolutions, there is always some phoenix that arises from the ashes. So, to try and look at what you can do rather than what you can't do, and to control your temper, because, there is nobody to get angry at. It's not somebody's fault. It's, you can blame it on a government for the way they've reacted, but they're also affected by the coronavirus pandemic. So yeah, I think to look at what you can do, what you can't do, and stick together with your friends and your family, because we have become very, real in the West, nations of individualists, where we've got our own possessions, our own, our own independence. And I think this is a period where the love and support of other people is going to be crucial to getting us through this period. I do think we do need more cooperation, more consultation, and less autocratic leadership moving forward as a race. And that means more consensus decision making, more imperfect solutions, and less dictatorship.
Okay, well, look, thank you very much, Stella. That's been a very interesting update on what's happening up there in the heavens.
It's good, and I do love the stars. I think I find that the timelessness of cycles takes us beyond the hurly-burly of day-to-day politics, and that can be, give you a different perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Well, once again, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Linda. Thank you.